Chapter 24, The Amazing Les Paul. We were all saddened by the loss of the legendary guitarist and inventor Les Paul. He completely changed the world of music with his creation of sound-on-sound recording, as well as the invention of the solid-body electric guitar. Many know that he crossed numerous boundaries by winning multiple awards for his achievements, as well as inductions to various halls of fame. Many obituaries, tributes, and eulogies are still being written about Les Paul. When I was in the broadcast news business, one of my bosses told me, "If you're going to write something, tell me something I don't know." Well, here goes. It is true that for me, being friends with a guy like Les Paul would never be an unwanted attribute, but in my case, it was truly unexpected. In September of 2003, while on tour of the Northeast, I decided to catch one of Les Paul's weekly shows in New York City. A couple of friends and I decided to make the trip to the Iridium Jazz Club near Times Square for Les' weekly Monday night show. After paying the $30 or so each to get in, we were there. I was really excited to be able to see this man in action, one of my idols, a man that I had read about for so many years. Plus all of my years playing the model of the guitar named after him, the Gibson Les Paul. I had determined that I was going to make this night pleasurable and go easy on myself. I wasn't going to try to get an autograph, get on stage, schmooze, hustle, or do any kind of PR or music business. It was strictly going to be a guitar lesson for me. As the lights went down, the sound man announced, and now the man that has changed the course of popular music for all of us, Mr. Les Paul and his trio. It was amazing, and I was enthralled. There he was, in the flesh. The guy that invented multi-track recording and the solid-body electric guitar. I was savoring the moment, and I was oblivious to everything else around me. This is what I've been waiting for. After about 3 or 4 songs, Les started cutting up with the crowd and the band. He was really quick and really funny. This talent, no doubt, had carried over from his early days in vaudeville. It seemed that someone in the front row was talking to him. Whoever it was said something on the order of, "I play guitar too." Les replied, "So you play too, eh? Well, come up here and show us what you can do." At that moment, a well-dressed gentleman from India approached the stage. He strapped on the guitar that Les kept on the piano for just such occasions. I wasn't sure what was happening here, but I was trying to figure it out. The guy started playing an introduction to T-Bone Walker's Stormy Monday, badly. Now I was getting worried. The hair on the back of my neck was starting to stand up. My friends Bobby and John knew I was starting to get restless. I was trying to keep from turning green and not to have my clothes split off me like the Incredible Hulk. It was disconcerting. The guy played one song and he was off the stage quickly. It was really awkward. By this time, I was fit to be tied, mainly because I couldn't leave this night with that vision in my head. Was it a joke? Was it planned? There was no way to tell. Not sure of what would happen next, Les resumed his show as if nothing had happened. I did eventually calm down to enjoy the rest of the set. It was truly a wonderful experience once the whatever it was, interruption, had passed. At the close of the first show, the announcement was made that CDs could be purchased from Les' son, Rusty. I immediately went to him, bought a CD, and asked him if that last appearance had been planned. He said they had never seen the guy before. Again, somehow there was no way I was going to leave here this night with that vision of that first guy with a guitar in my head. I explained to Rusty who I was, that I was on tour, and that I had my first Les Paul guitar when I was 18. He said if he had known I was there, they would have gotten me up there. "Well," I said, "I'm still here." He said, "Okay, come on back and I'll introduce you to Dad." I was caught off guard by this response and ecstatic at the same time. When I met Les, it was like talking to an old friend. I explained to him my situation of just coming to listen and to pay my respects. When he asked me if I'd like to sit in, I told him that wasn't my reason for attending his show, but after the train wreck I witnessed earlier in the set, I simply said, "Yes, I would like that very much." He seemed pleased and said for me to stand by the side of the stage and that he would get me up with him. I did that while trying to control my excitement. In the next set, he called me up with no idea of who I was or what I could do. I introduced myself to the audience over the microphone, telling them my name and how honored I was to be there. I immediately launched into a simple version of Every Day I Have the Blues, with the band following. As I played and sang, Les was smiling. After that song, he says, "What else you got?" I went into a slow B.B. King blues classic, Sweet Little Angel. That was gratifying since I made it to the second song. Les and I swapped some licks back and forth, and both of us having a ball. The first guy got the hook after the first tune, but I made it to the second song. When I came off the stage, I was walking on air. This was a day I would never forget. Over the next few years, I would return to jam with Les and the band about a half dozen more times. I became friends with the band and crew, Lou, Nicky, John, Tom, and Chris, Les' son, Rusty, and I would stay in touch. During my trips to the Northeast, I would attend Rusty's Sunday night jams at various locations around northern New Jersey and then go into the city to see Les on Monday. The stories I was hearing from Les were priceless. He told me how he got Mary Ford to speaking to a microphone down the hall, and when he heard her voice repeated on the extra tape head he installed, he knew he had found the thing that would change music recording forever. He told Mary to grab the laundry, throw it in the car, and that they were heading to Chicago. She kept saying, "What if it doesn't work?" During that trip from California, by the time they were in New Mexico, he was wondering if it would work. He then said, "By the time we got to Chicago, I had convinced myself it wasn't going to work." He was thankful that when they drilled the first hole in a new Ampex tip recorder in Chicago to add the extra tape head, that we didn't screw anything up. That would be the beginning of sound-on-sound recording technology. During another one of my visits, Les simply said, "Man, if I was to ever retire, I would just die." He was 89 then. Another time I was helping the guys carry some gear up the stairs from the Iridium Club to the street to put in the car. After 2 shows, he had signed autographs for a line of people that circled the inside of the club. He had autographed everything from guitars to pictures, from records to pick guards to you name it. After signing every last item, Les was still downstairs in the restroom. As I headed back in, the manager of the door with the keys to lock up said, "What did you forget?" I said, "Les is still in the club." I ran back down and got him. I'll never forget Les Paul holding onto my arm as we climbed the stairs at 1 a.m. When he turned 90, it seemed that the whole world showed up to witness him. The crowds were lined up out the door of the Iridium on Monday nights. Interviewers from all walks of the media were at the dressing room door for weeks before and after his birthday. I had the pleasure of sitting in with him 3 days before his actual 90th. The big event was a couple of weeks later at a star-studded event in Carnegie Hall. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend. My last visit with him was in November of 2007, at age 92. When my friend Bobby Lyons and I arrived at the Iridium early, Les was having his usual dinner in the dressing room. He was always eating his dinner off an audio monitor cabinet, turned on its side. Why they didn't get him a small table in there for his dinner was always a mystery. It seemed that a little better treatment would have been in order. This time when we arrived, Les responded lethargically and waved slowly. It was a little disturbing, but we just decided to grab a bite in the meantime before the show. When we returned, I happened to be in a position to help him onto the stage. He seemed to appreciate it by patting me on the back as he went up the few stage steps. He ambled to his chair, picked up his guitar, and as soon as the introduction announcement was made, the lights came up. It was showtime. He was back. I got to sit in both sets that night. After the second show, he came back into the dressing room, collapsed on the couch and said, "Man, I'm tired." I said, "Les, are you okay? I was really quite concerned about you earlier." He said, "Oh yeah, I'm fine. I've just been putting in these 14-hour days." I replied, 14-hour days? What are you doing?" He said, "I'm still working on these guitars." "What are you doing to them?" I asked. "I'm still trying to get the sound right." I was amazed. This is why he would jump out of bed every morning until the end, to keep chasing sound. There is no doubt that Les Paul, as an inventor, actually picked up where Thomas Edison left off regarding the development of sound technology. Of course, we have to realize that there will be future generations that will pick up where Les left off. This was evident when Apple Computer's co-founder Steve Wozniak showed up one Monday night to Les' dressing room at the Iridium while I was there. While Les notably continued Edison's developments, Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs picked up the ball and ran with it, taking music and audio technology to an all-new level. There were some interesting conversations that evening between Woz and Les that I won't even begin to describe. It was just satisfying to know I was there firsthand to witness it. The amazing thing about Les Paul is that with as many important and well-known people that he associated, rubbed shoulders with, he would always show his fondness for guys like me who just loved to play guitar. He would always sign my guitars when I would take them into the show. He would always write something nice on them. Keep on Picking was a favorite, but the night he wrote, "Those were some great blues," I was pretty well knocked out. I've been fortunate over the years to have some nice testimonials from some great musicians, but this one placed most of those on the back burner. While I greatly appreciate each one, no other references are needed. Les actually confessed to me that since he was more commercially oriented, he didn't know much about the history of the blues. He actually asked me to explain it to him. I sat in the dressing room of the Iridium one night and gave him my basic, simple interpretation of the origin of the blues. He sat there listening carefully, really soaking it in. I couldn't believe Les Paul was actually learning something from me. During the month of June 2009, I attended one of Rusty Paul's jams in New Jersey. My plan was to go into New York City on the Monday afterward to see Les. Rusty told me that Les hadn't been able to make some shows in the last few weeks since he had been in and out of the hospital. He had even missed his 94th birthday gig on June 9th. I was concerned about it, but Rusty said his dad was doing better and itching to get back to work. If I knew anything all about Les, I knew that was true. He said that his Monday gigs at the Iridium were just like celebrating New Year's Eve every week. About a month and a half later, I flew back home to Atlanta for a few days off from the road. As I was driving to pick up a new shipment of CDs from my distributor, I received a call from my friend Bobby in New York telling me that Les had just passed. Though not unexpected, it was still a very sad day. Since that time, I was in touch with his son Rusty Paul on a regular basis, as well as band members jazz guitarist Lou Pallo, pianist John Colleone, and upright bassist Nicky Perot from time to time on social media. Rusty's son and Les's grandson, Stephen Paul, owns and operates a restaurant called the Rusty Moose in Alton, New Hampshire. It's been a pleasure for me to become good friends with Stephen and his sister Beth, and to perform at his establishment from time to time. Sadly, Rusty passed away late on New Year's Eve in 2015. He too will never be forgotten. Les Paul proved to me many times that having a passion for something in life will keep one alive. For a guy like Les Paul, and with a life like he had, we can't afford to mourn his loss as much as we need to always remember and celebrate his life. We all need to keep on picking and to keep chasing that sound.